I will be whole. I wanna be, I gotta be made whole. I gotta be, it's time to be made whole. I'm gonna be, just wait and see. I will be whole.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tracee Perryman. We embrace leadership opportunities, but they can come with more stress than we're ready to manage. So where do we look for new coping skills? Today, we'll learn from the experience of an academic leader, Dr. Dione Somerville, president of Owens Community College. Dr. Somerville, we are so happy that you're able to join us today.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Tell us about your journey to become president of Owens Community College.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I truly appreciate the opportunity. As I think about my journey to become president of Owens Community College, it's interesting because if you look at my background, my bio, there appears to be a linear path, but it comes with a lot of different recognitions along the way. And so I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, first generation college student. My parents very much valued education. And so my mother earned her high school diploma in New Orleans, Louisiana. And like many people at the time came up to Detroit, Michigan as part of the Great Migration. Mm-hmm. My father earned his GED after serving in the Army in Korea. And so they both very much wanted their children to have what they didn't. And so I'm the youngest of six, and all six of us went to college. And so to have a family that very much values that, it was a foregone conclusion that I would go to college as well. And so when I got there and began engaging in different leadership roles, I recognized very much that not everyone had that kind of privilege of having a family that valued education. And so by the time I was a senior in college, I was a student athlete. I was involved in, lots of activities. And my last year, I was a head resident. Position that doesn't exist, but where you're kind of the hall director. Yep. For our residence hall. And I realized that I could help people along their own journey and have that kind of positive impact. And so from there, I started at Ohio Northern. And my master's is from Bowling Green State University. I had assistantships at the University of Findlay and at Baldwin-Wallace College. It was Baldwin-Wallace College at the time. It is now Baldwin-Wallace University. Mm-hmm. And then after I graduated, went to the greater Cleveland area and worked at Ursuline College. I was at the Ohio College of Podiatric Medicine. I was at Lorain Community College. And then I earned my doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia in higher education management. And so for me, part of what has tied my career together has been every position, every institution has been an institution that has valued opportunity. And so from Lorain, I went to Iowa State. Then I went to Bloomsburg, then I went to Hawkeye Community College, and then here. And even though I was at private Catholic colleges, I was at a podiatry college at 4-year, 2-year, what has tied them all together is that there's an ethic of care and an understanding that education is transformational. And so I believe that education has been transformational in my own life, and I've seen how that has impact in other people's lives. And so if I have a way to have that kind of impact through whatever role it is I'm doing, that's why I want to do what I do. And that's been part of my journey.
So, did you always hope to be a college president?
Not initially. Those spheres of impact and how one position or one role can lead to another and to another is kind of what has led me here. And so when you start off in higher education, you're working either with individual or small groups of students. And then as you look at different roles, you look at how you can have a positive impact on a larger sphere within your institution. And that's what really has allowed me to keep going. Even the choice to be at a community college versus a 4-year. Community colleges are very unique in that they are rooted within their communities. There's an interdependence that is present in the community college sector that is part of our mission and part of who we are. And so the community engagement, the workforce development, the open access. I mean, literally, if you have the ability to benefit from any of our offerings, then you have a home here. And so that goes from everything from basic English, math, communications, your sciences, liberal arts, all of that, all the way through to technical studies, to transfer degrees, to certificate programs. And so all of those are available here. And we have the ability to meet people where they are and help them with whatever their goals are. Not everyone comes to higher education with the same background. You have people who are straight from high school who absolutely loved high school, but want to be here because we have a special program, or they see the value for the education, or they're interested in one of our express transfer agreements. Or you have people who have a variety of careers. And they say, okay, I want to come back and do this because I need this education or certification because I want to do something next. And so we have the ability to have meaningful educational opportunities for everyone. Literally everyone. And I think that's part of what's unique about community colleges. Literally everyone is a prospective student. Everyone in our service district, be it someone who's in high school, someone returning, even someone who may want to take continuing education or contract training. And so that's part of the uniqueness about who we are. And that's part of what's exciting because it really speaks to the impact that we can have throughout our district.
And I appreciate you taking the time to lay out the complexities associated with leading a community college and the different spheres, the different stakeholders that are involved that may be a little different from a four-year institution, at least in terms of focus, right? And that extra piece, an extra layer of workforce development. And understanding that it is important to link those rather than expecting the student or the graduate to build a bridge on their own. So I appreciate all that. And so in speaking to all of these complexities, talk to us about the unique stressors and responsibilities that come with a prestigious career like yours and in the context that you're working.
Well, thank you for that. And I really believe that everyone has their own level of individual stress with whatever it is their job and responsibility is. And I think for us, given our varied stakeholders, it does bring a level of complexity. I believe that all of higher education works in terms of workforce development. We just don't always call it the same thing in different places. And different people, different institutions, different stakeholders define workforce development differently. And so for us, we know that that's part of our mission and what we do, be it, regardless of what program you're in, because we want to make sure that our students leave with whatever it is they came to earn from Owens in the first place, be it exploration, be it transfer, be it a specific skill or certification. And so the stressors of that is truly that responsibility that is broad. And so I think for me, the way I kind of characterize it is that I believe that our mission is noble. When you talk about an institution who really has demonstrated that we're a conduit to people having a better life throughout Northwest Ohio, that truly means everyone. That means every industry, every business, that we can do within the scope of our offerings to make sure that we connect students with employers, students with four-year institutions, business and industry and economic development professionals to, community organizations. We really can serve as that hub and that connector piece for our region. And so that is an enormous responsibility for all of us. And I don't, we do that together as a team at Owens because no one individual can do that by themselves. And I'm very proud of the team that we have here because it's through our leadership team, our trustees, our faculty, our staff, through all of that makes this possible. And I think that understanding our mission and who we are and believing in our mission is hugely important. And that's how you're able to, you could see it, stress as negative, but you see it as I have the privilege of being entrusted with this responsibility. And to me, that's noble. And that's where I derive my energy from.
It is definitely noble. So it's a beautiful thing when you're in a career that aligns with your values and aligns with your sense of purpose. And you're right. It does make the lift a little easier. But tell us about some of the coping strategies that you use on those long days when it's long day after long day after long day, phone call after phone call after phone call. And even in a wonderful workplace environment, there are just some times where we cannot find common ground. How do you cope?
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to recentering, remembering why you're here. And to me, that's hugely important. I mean, going to our library, going to a student function, talking with our faculty and staff, because I think that interdependence and understanding that we're doing something together, we're making progress together is hugely important. And so that's a huge part of it to me. Outside of that, I think that people have to find their own individual ways to disconnect, to find a way to exercise a different part of their brain, something to where you can come back and be fully present in the work that you're doing. And so it could be walking your dog, mowing the lawn. I joke, I do enjoy mowing the lawn. And so there's things like that allow you to just do something different and then come back to the work in a way that you have the passion and drive to be able to do.
So tell me this, are there any coping strategies that you observe women use that may not be as helpful, or are there coping strategies that we should avoid?
Not necessarily. And I don't know that I would be able to speak to any coping strategies that people should avoid, because I think it's very individual for everyone. I think that people find space in whatever it is they want to do. There are people who enjoy gardening. There's people who want to meditate, who do yoga. And I think whatever works for you is whatever works for you.
Understood. So finding our voices and using them to enlighten, educate, and empower is a source of coping and healing. And I've kind of heard themes of this throughout our conversation. I also think that your podcast is an example of that.
Thank you.
So tell us about your podcast and how you measure its success.
So we're very proud of our podcast. It really started as an idea because one of the things we realized is that everyone has an Owens story. And you go through the community and you talk to people, either they were a student here, they have a parent or a loved one who was a student here or who worked here, or they came to see a theater production here. I mean, there's always a connection. And so we saw it as a way of how do we tell the Owens story and be able to share it with a broader audience. And so it really was from that very humble, noble, how do we get the word out about how we're connected and how there's this interdependence between so many different either institutions or people throughout Northwest Ohio and Owens Community College. And so it is now, we have 20-something episodes already. We have spoken to a variety of leaders from throughout the region, and we've won 2 national awards for our podcast. It has an all Owens crew, and so the people who work on it are either current staff or alums of Owen. Even the musical score was written by an Owens alum, and so we're very proud of it. And we believe that it's part of that connectivity, and it demonstrates the connectivity that we have to the rest of the region. It's gotten some attention, and for us, we measure the podcast in a few different ways. Obviously, there's the metrics, like downloads and things like that. There's also the awards that we've won that really speak to the need for it and the quality of it. And there's also that informal feedback. That people can say, hey, I really liked this episode on blah, blah, blah. I learned XYZ, or I didn't know that Owens did ABC, or things like that have been really important, that really, drive us to be able to make sure that the podcast continues with the kind of passion and staying true to the intent that it had when it started.
Well, I thank you for bringing out some very, very interesting themes for women as we cope. And the first being passion-led and values-driven. The second thing is gratitude, right? And the third thing is not trying to make the lift alone. Sometimes we as women believe that we have to carry every situation and every person, but really being intentional about who you bring around your circle and who you put in leadership positions to be able to advance the work alongside with you. So thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Somerville.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure, and thank you for asking me to be part of this.
In coping with the stress of high-profile careers, Dr. Somerville kept pointing to the importance of being purpose-driven. When our careers align with our purpose, it is easier to express gratitude on those rough days. Gratitude opens our eyes to those who are willing to support us, reminding us that we are not alone. This podcast series was funded by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and the Lucas County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. Special thanks to Owens Community College for their support of this episode.